Welcome to Lesson 1 of Colgate VisLab's Lessons in Autodesk Maya. In this lesson, we'll be focusing on basic Maya controls and functions. During this video, you will learn basic sections of Maya, how to set up a new project, how to name your projects for incremental saves, basic movement through Maya, object manipulation controls, and the location of various tabs and their functions. Let's get started. When you first open a new Maya program, you will see this setup here. The central window, the biggest and most obvious, is used for your workspace. It's where you'll visualize all of your models, animations, visual effects, and other things. The upper segment is a series of tabs that adjust that visualization. You have here some camera adjustments, some frame adjustments based on your resolution, additions to said frame, ways to visualize polygons and other objects, and other visualization tools that we can get to in later videos. Further up the tables, you'll see a series of tabs that are used for populating your workspace with various objects. As a new user, you'll primarily make use of the curves and surfaces, the polygons, the rendering tab, and occasionally the sculpting tab. Other tabs include animation, FX, FX caching, a custom tab for various scripts, especially if you're working between programs, and unique to the VisLab, you'll find a Dome Master 3D tab. We'll get to this one on a later date, but take note, this is going to be important because it allows you to create a dome shader for your finished product. This will help you put content onto the dome. To the left, you have a series of object manipulators. These are used to rotate, translate, scale, and otherwise interact with your objects in Maya. Below that, you'll find a series of layout presets. This allows you to add various layouts to Autodesk Maya, depending on what you're working on. Do note that you can also reach a favorite layout by hitting space. To the right, you'll find what's called the channel box, and, alternatively, the attribute editor. These will provide you with an ability to modify your object's numerical values, as opposed to using the workspace in the center to manipulate them. At the top of the Maya window, you'll find a series of tabs. These tabs adjust your top menu and your drop-down boxes based on your objective. As a new user at the VisLab, you'll primarily be using the modeling and occasionally the animation tabs. Additionally, you'll find short keys for saving and loading, selection type, selection capabilities such as joints, curves, polygons, and others. This will limit what you're allowed to select in Maya. You'll also find snapping tools, which will allow you to work with a degree of accuracy you wouldn't be able to manage otherwise, based around the grid in the center here. Furthermore, you'll find your rendering windows here. These will be important when you're lighting and finalizing a scene. Finally, you'll find a series of tools centered around more complex node-based compositing. When you begin a new scene in Autodesk Maya, the first thing you want to do is set your project. We do this because when we're working at the VisLab, our projects can sometimes take months, and the complexity is something we need to organize. Setting your project will do that for us. To set your project, you go to File, Set Project. As you can see, Maya's default folder for projects falls under the C drive, or whatever drive you installed Maya in, Users, your username, Documents, Maya, Projects. This is the default folder. However, at the VisLab, we'll be working under the VL Master Share 02. To set a new project, you're going to want to create a new project folder if you don't already have one. If you already have one, such as these here that I've created, you may simply click one, see that it is available in the directory, and click Set. We'll do that this time around. However, it's worth noting that if you want to create a new folder, you may do so here, and Maya will create a series of subfolders for you. Selecting the new VisLab project, we click Set. Now your project is set, we're going to want to save a version. We do this by hitting File, Save As. You can see that I've already created a set of files in this folder. These files follow the name formatting that we'll want you to use, which is, as we can see, project name, scene name, and the version. For the purposes of this demo, we'll save a new version. Always begin, however, with version 1. As you can see, our file has been named. Now, once you've made some progress with a file, in my case here, that would involve adding several primitives, perhaps arranging those primitives in a space, giving ourselves a ground plane. Now, let's say I'm happy with this progress, and I consider this a significant amount of progress in my file. We'll want to do what's called versioning up. Versioning up means that we, instead of overwriting our file by hitting Save Scene, we'll want to produce a new version. We do this by hitting Save Scene As, using the same file name formatting, and simply increasing the number by an increment of 1. And then hitting Save As. Now, as you've probably seen, I've moved the camera several times during our tutorial today. This is accomplished through a series of short keys. Specifically, to rotate around a scene, you hold Alt, hold the left mouse button, and you'll see that my mouse icon has changed, and drag the mouse to rotate. Similarly, you can hold Alt, hold the middle mouse button, and pan a scene by dragging. Finally, you can hold Alt for a third time, and hold the right mouse button to zoom in and out. These three basic functions will allow you to move your camera through your scene, and therefore get a better angle on what you're working on. When producing content for the VisLab, you'll need to move more than your camera. Specifically, you'll need to manipulate your objects. You can do this, for example, by using the keys here. Our first key, the selection tool, is used to highlight objects and interact with them. Just clicking on an object will bring up information in the channel box and attribute box, and otherwise indicate it to you in your workspace. The translate key will provide a different tooltip. This tool will allow you to move your object on the various axes, X, Y, and Z. Move your object on two axes, X, Y, Y, Z, and X, Z, and otherwise move your object through the 3 dimensions simultaneously. If you look in the channel box while I move this object, you can see those values changing, and you can adjust their numerical values there directly. For example, the rotate tool allows you to rotate objects using the same axes, X, Z, and Y rotation axes. Additionally, you can use the outer circle to rotate based on your camera angle. And finally, you can use the center void space between the axes to rotate on all three axes at once. Finally, the scale tool allows you to scale your object on the X, Y, and Z axes, as well as on the XZ, the YX, and the YZ. Finally, you can uniformly scale. One last thing to note is the final icon here, and this icon will change depending on what your last tool you selected is. You can see I've selected the multi-cut tool, which we'll get into in a later lesson, and the tooltip here, has swapped to adjust to it. This can be useful if you're jumping back and forth between object manipulation and object alteration. Thank you for watching Lesson 1 in Colgate VisLab's Lessons in Autodesk Maya. For more lessons, check out our YouTube page.